We can do the share screen. Good. All right, so last time we took a look at Julius Caesar in his Commentarii Rerum in Gallia Gestorum. Isn't that a wonderful title for a book? We did not check out meter though, so let's do that before we move on. That's a lot, I know. However, we will not bother. Oops. No. Don't worry about anapestic, dactylic, or other. We will never come across those this quarter. Sometimes I'll ask you to identify the meter of a poem. It won't happen for a while until we get to the Renaissance, probably. And of these, the most important four are iambic tetrameter, iambic pentameter, trochaic tetrameter, and trochaic pentameter. Now, an iamb is the most commonly used form, and the pentameter is the most common length. So if you have no other idea when you're taking a quiz and have no way of, your mind just goes blank and you have no idea whatsoever, guess iambic pentameter. You'll be right more times with that random guess than with any other random guess. Let's take a look at an example. So the emphasis is on the second syllable. Remember me when I am gone away. So that's 5 beats with the emphasis on the second, or 5 measures with the emphasis on the second beat. And almost all your Shakespeare, blank verse, your sonnets, what else? Sonnet, Shakespeare, oh, heroic couplet, all of those, in addition to all just the poems without any other description that use iambic pentameter, all of those use iambic pentameter. So iambic tetrameter is just 1 measure shorter. So start off, I have no wit, no words, no tears. That's 8 syllables. And 8 divided by 4, divided by 2 is 4. The Latin word for 4 is tetra. So it's some kind of tetrameter. And then you see, where is the emphasis? I have no wit, no words, no tears. Do it the other way, the trochee, it doesn't sound right. I have no wit, no words, no tears. It doesn't sound right. So there's a kind of a science to this. Let's look at trochaic. Weary. See, the emphasis is on the first beat. Weary of myself. Now this is, they threw in to confuse us, and I am, and sick of asking. Are those all iambs? Weary of myself. And it's what I am and what I ought to be. I don't know. That's not a very good, let's do another one. We won't get to it this quarter. Okay. Emphasis on the first beat. Tiger, tiger, burning bright. Now you notice they left off the last syllable. Tiger, tiger, burning bright. So like in math, you round up to 8, divide by 4. It's tetrameter. And because the emphasis is on the first beat, it's trochaic. And because they dropped off the last beat for emphasis, it's catalectic. I don't know that we'll have any of those this quarter, but that's a famous example of trochaic, tetrameter, catalectic. And like I say, if These are the four main ones. If they're only 6 syllables, it's trimeter. If they're only 2, it's dimeter. It's only 1, it's monometer. But mostly what we'll see are pentameters and tetra. Okay, is everybody clear as mud on that? After we do a few, you'll get used to it. But like I say, those won't be for a while. Don't freak out over that. All right, so since the last period, we had the apocalypse. There was some weird, of all the reasons for Rome to fail, and there are a bunch of them that people speculate. One is there was a draining plague that just wouldn't go away for a long time. It's hard to get a bunch of soldiers together for a war when all your people are dying of plague. But anyway, by this time, Rome has thoroughly fallen. Let's see, a series of invasions. Our native tribes are the Scotch, Irish, Welsh, Cornish. The invaders are the Romans, and they brought with them, of course, Greeks, Judaism, Christianity, all that came with the Romans. Then when the Romans left and civilization collapsed, that made room for barbarians. So Anglo-Saxons and Jutes are Germanic tribes coming in fairly early. And then the Vikings and they came later. The Normans are the French, and they come in 1066. The original inhabitants of Britain are Celtic, and the various Celtic groups were the Scotch, the Irish, the Welsh, the Cornish, who are most famous for their hymns. The first invaders that we know of were the Romans, came in 55 with Caesar, but then left. So they didn't really come back and stay for almost 100 years until Claudius. Now, unlike Caesar, Claudius did not lead from the front. He's more of a traditional ruler who leads from Rome, leading from the rear. And then there was 400 years of stability and order. Romans bringing their roads, their baths, their food, their other stuff. And they weren't thrown out. They left to protect Rome. As I described last time, the Germans came down from the north and managed to get past the legions that were there and sack Rome. And Rome was like, we don't want that happening again. Let's bring all of our legions back from Britain because Britain's off to the side. They can't protect us when the Germans are coming down. They're too little too late. So the Romans left, and the Roman civilization collapsed. They reverted to tribalism. We call the next period the Dark Ages because losing civilization sucks. I mean, we may well be in the middle of losing ours. And so far, we've still got running water and electricity and Wi-Fi. But when that goes, it's going to be Walking Dead around here. So this now not the whole period until the 1500s is called the Dark Ages. You get the High Middle Ages with civilization starting to rise, the medieval civilization. It's you know, a little more orderly. The Germanic tribes start coming in. The Germans, for some reason, they love to farm. And so they came in, started with raids, but then over time, they were like, no, we could just settle here. see if we got a picture of that. That's pretty good. All right, so the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes. Now England is, I don't know, if you look at Angles and look at the word England, you'll see they're similar. So over the centuries, Angles changed to Anglish, which changed to English. So England actually gets its name from being conquered by this tribe. So the Angles settle up here, the Jutes here, and the Saxons here. And kind of settle in. Anglo-Saxon becomes the basis of English. When I was your age, they were still calling it Old English. And nowadays, if you study Old English, they'll call it Anglo-Saxon. It's the same language. German and Dutch and English are all descended from this old Anglo-Saxon German. And it forms the basis of English. We have some words that are our most common words in our short words tend to be Anglo-Saxon. More importantly than just vocabulary is the structure of the language itself tends to be Germanic. Although at some point, because they spoke different versions of the German, their different endings fell away and English became a word order language, which it is till this day, rather than an inflected language, which you look at the word endings to figure out what part of this sentence it is. All right, then after them, the Vikings came. Now, what's important to notice about all these invasions? In order to invade England, two things need to be true. One, you've got to have a navy. The Huns with their horses don't make it. Do you remember, did any Game of Thrones fans in here? And you remember Khaleesi was, first like 5 seasons, first she had to get herself an army, but then she needed boats. I need boats, man. And so that's how the Huns were. So they just turned and, went away. The other thing is England at the time needs to be weakly defended. So as long as the Romans were there with their ships in their, Roman legions, it made it kind of hard to invade. Once they're gone, it's an open door. And first the Germans come, and now the Vikings are coming. They come from Denmark, Sweden, Norway. They attack, and then they're repelled. In 878, King Alfred pushes back the Vikings. The next group were the Normans, who were from France. So this one's a simpler map. Okay, France, England, and William the Conqueror leads that, with the result that English or Anglo-Saxon is not suppressed. The commoners are still speaking that, but the French aristocracy are speaking French, early medieval French. which is descended from Latin. Now, by the time of the Vikings, at least the church is back. When did, maybe earlier than that, 597, yeah. So in the middle of the Anglo-Saxon invasion, the Christians show back up. They never go away for very long. You think you gotten rid of them, and here comes a monk. Oh my God, what are you going to do? And so Rome has been reestablishing itself from this period on, but it's not the Roman legions under the Roman emperor. It's the Roman Church, the Roman Catholic Church under the Pope. And they're bringing in Latin, but also they want to reach out to the Anglo-Saxons. And so they start writing stuff like Genesis A and B. That's not a translation of the Bible, it's a retelling in terms they can understand. What is today? Tuesday? Oh, we aren't doing Beowulf today. Good. Also, they create a written language from Anglo-Saxon, and so it's up to the monks to preserve whatever we have of Anglo-Saxon literature. But through all of this period, the church is there. The French overlords are learning a little bit of Anglo-Saxon. The Anglo-Saxon underlings are learning a little bit of French. And guess what happens? English, as we know it, emerges. And we still have this two-tier system of the English language. So if you're a lower class person running around the field chasing a pig, you call it a swine or a pig or something like that. But you kill the pig, take it inside, the Lord eats it. Well, what is the Lord eating? Pork. What's chicken poulet? Voulez-vous poulet? And it's chicken outside. What's the word for goat? I don't know. Beef, though. In a field, it's a cow. On a plate, it's beef. And we still have that two-tier language in other areas. If you're a common, ordinary person, like most of us, you come into town on an airplane, you want to ride to the hotel, you call a taxi, right? Here's a taxi. There's a cabbie who's driving the taxi. But if you're fancy, what do you write in? A limousine. And does a cabbie drive a limousine? No, a chauffeur does. Well, guess what kind of words limousine and chauffeur are? They're French words. And so fancy, classy stuff in the English language, we typically like to use French words. Lower class, earthy language tends to be the old Anglo-Saxon words. All right, so we watched the breakdown of society. The Romans had a very modern-looking social, they had all kinds of jobs, all kinds of things people did. It's a multinational empire with good roads, a lot of safety as you travel. But with the collapse of the Roman civilization, you revert to tribal structure. And so what we're talking about with the Anglo-Saxons is kind of true of most tribes to some degree or another. You have the Earl, who is the leader, the chief of the tribe. Then you have the churls who follow them. Now, along with the Earl would be his ruling men, the king or the Earl, the leader, the chief of the tribe, supposed to be a brave commander. Again, this is a place where you lead from the front. You're expected to be a great warrior and go out in front and lead the fighting. but you're also supposed to be wise in peacetime and generous with your people in peacetime. Do you have the levels? Okay, so basically it's a three-part social structure: the ruler, the warriors, and then the slaves, or the servants. And both the warriors, when they weren't fighting, would farm, but then the slaves were kind of limited to that. Although it wasn't a hereditary slavehood like in the United States later on. You know, as you were there a while, you started kind of being brought into the tribe, especially if you're a kid and you seem as more aggressive. You know, put a stick in his hand, see what he does with it. And you could move up the ranks that way. Loyalty is a big thing in the tribal system. Crime against your own is unforgivable, punishable either by death or banishment. Here's the Christians coming back, St. Augustine, not the big one who lived in Hippo. This is the one here. Shows up, converts King Ethelbert of Kent, and then he told everybody else that they were converting, and Latin comes back finally. Well, it was a long time gone. 870, the Vikings attack. They have a very similar mythology and social structure to the very similar to the Anglo-Saxons. 1066, the Normans invade, and the French era begins, the Anglo-Saxon era ends. At the end of this period, you will have medieval English, like we have with Chaucer, Middle English. Emerge, and they'll start writing in that again. All of our early stuff is not written in any kind of language we could recognize. It's going to be in translation. All right. Talk just for a minute about how each of these cultures leaves an impact on English literature. With the original Celtic, some of their mythology. What are Druids? Are Druids Celtic?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, there we go. So the Druids, stuff is on. The Greeks and Romans bring in their mythology, but also the Bible. And so those two influences start. When they go away, some of that goes away for a bit, but of course the Roman Catholic Church brings it back shortly. Anglo-Saxon mythology, very similar to Norse mythology, which is a little more familiar because of all those English movies with Thor and whatnot, except there were no spaceships. That's been added by, who makes those movies?
Marvel.
Okay, Marvel, they add the spaceship. So you can have like straight up Germanic myths. You can have Norse mythology, which is kind of what Beowulf is. You can have Greek mythology, which the Romans had basically brought over whole cloth into their system. You could have biblical stories, both Old and New Testament. Eventually the French will show up. I mean, you have fables, which go back to Aesop in the Greek. So a lot of these stories, we kind of tease them apart and see where they're coming from or where each part is coming from. Because as we see with Genesis A and B, it's kind of a combination. I need two slides. I like the size of PowerPoint. Why is that doing that? There we go. Not sure if I saw it. Yes. Oh, crap. Okay. Why isn't that black? There we go. Can y'all read that? Anyway, evangelium is the Greek word for gospel. And so what the priests bring to a society is the evangelium, the gospel, so that they can save them and deliver their souls to God. It's very important within Christianity. And there are two basic approaches that any good missionary can use. And one is the total extermination of the original religion. Who tried that? Most famously, the Spanish were able to defeat the Muslim forces that were on the Spanish peninsula. And just to make sure everybody was good and Christian, they set up the most virulent form of the Inquisition. And the Inquisitor comes around and makes sure you don't have any bad thoughts or you die. So the other approach to an original religion, when you come in, is called finding the proto-evangelium, which is the proto-gospel within their belief system, something that points to the gospel, something that is positive. So why does not the church go to Scandinavia and set up the Inquisition there? Any guess? Scandinavia is full of Vikings. And if you try to set up the Inquisition there, they'll kill the shit out of you in some very interesting ways. And so the church all of a sudden, proto-evangelium. Now, if you have, the more troops you have behind you and the fewer that you have in front of you, the more you move to exterminating the original religion. But why can't we all just get along is the proto-evangelium, and the Catholic Church has a lot of experience with doing that in all kinds of cultures. And that's how we have interesting things like Day of the Dead, and Our Lady of Guadalupe, and they'll just take something that was there before, baptize it, and make it Christian. Okay, where are notes? So I think we had Easter before. Oh, that's the wrong ones. I thought I saw it. I'm not seeing it right. Oh, here we go. Pagan traditions fused with Christian ones. So the Christians try to find something in the pagan. The Romans had this huge holiday every winter called Saturnalia, and the Christians tried for a bit to wipe it out. And they'd say, well, let's not call it Saturnalia. What will we call it instead? Anybody know that one? You can speak up if you know it.
Isn't it Christmas?
What was that?
Yes, Christmas.
Christmas, that's right. So they weren't, I mean, the Puritans, when they took over, outlawed Christmas. And it's funny that their descendants are the ones that are always worried about the war on Christmas. The original war on Christmas was actually real and was carried out by Puritans because they knew about the pagan background. Easter in the spring becomes Easter, the Christian version of it, but we still have those pagan bunnies and eggs to celebrate fertility. Killing a tree at winter solstice and dragging it into the house, an evergreen tree, to celebrate the renewal that will come in 3 months with the spring, that becomes the Christmas tree. And so all of these are examples of the fusing of Christian with pagan traditions as they try to find the truth in the pagan tradition, the proto-evangelium. Okay, so when we get to Genesis A and B and Dream of the Rood, these are not totally Christian or totally Jewish. You've taken this Jewish story and put it into the pagan world of the Anglo-Saxons. And it's not just translating the language, you have to make it make sense to this new culture. Right it is that we praise the King of heaven, the Lord of hosts, and love him with all our hearts. For he is great in power, the source of all created things, the Lord Almighty. Never hath he known beginning, neither cometh an end of his eternal glory. So all of this very, will this make it past the, what do they call the head monk of a monastery? I know you've got the mother superior. Is he the father superior? Anyway, the monks have to get this past the people reading over it to make sure it's okay. And so all of this sounds really great. Then God made the angels, the angel legions, the blessedness of God, celestial joy and bliss. Great was their glory. Then you know sin or evil, etc., etc. Then sorrow came upon them. Envy and insolence and pride of the angel who first began that deed of folly to plot and hatch and forth, and thirsting for battle, boasted that in the northern borders of heaven he would establish a throne and a kingdom. And then God smote them down. So this is not in Genesis. So why are we going to add it to Genesis A and B in Anglo-Saxon? Because these are warriors and they love battles. And having a battle between the angels who fall and the other angels and God is a great way to start a story for them. Now, in their universe, being bright and warm, these are good things. They have long, cold winters. And so for them, their hell is cold and dark rather than being hot. Let's see, where were they? Crushed was their pride, their boasting humble, their powers broken, their glory dimmed. Thenceforth these dusky spirits dwelt in exile. So they're cast into outer darkness. I'm not sure I see the cold, but it's there. Now, when I was growing up with those, unair-conditioned summers in Louisiana and Mississippi, the preachers who came around and talked about hell was hot, damn hot, because it was uncomfortably hot here 9 months of the year. But in this northern clime, here we go, fire and piercing cold. So they keep the fire, because it is in the Bible, but they add cold to their hell, because their original idea of eternal punishment was that it was cold. All right, so in here we see a lot of boasting. Boasting's bad in the Bible because you're mostly supposed to be humble. But in a warrior society, that's not such a good thing all the time. And so we find a warrior like David trying to find a humble boast, like I'll go out and face Goliath and God will give me the victory. So there is a way to do it. But one purpose of the boast is to get you ready so that you go out into battle, and at the moment that you want to be afraid and run away, you can't because you made the boast. So it's a way of getting you ready to go out so that you won't run away when you would, most of us would rather run from danger. So you got to say, oh, I'm going to go out there and do great. And then if you don't, that's bad. Oh, here we go. Heaven, shining, glory, radiance. Hell is darkness. Some burning, yes, still, but also cold now. And why is it cold? Because their idea of suffering was already associated with it being cold. Life versus death, home versus exile, joy versus grim affliction, obedience versus rebellion, and pleasure versus all the tortures, woe, fire, piercing cold, smoke veils, and ruddy, ruddy flame. So moving on down, we get the creation story from Genesis. Adam and Eve. It's a perfect area to live, but there is one tree where the fruit was pleasant, fair, and winsome, excellent and sweet. He might live forever in the world who ate of that fruit, so that old age press not heavily upon him, nor grievous sick, but he might live his life in happiness forever. So that's the tree of life. And the other tree was dark, sunless, full of shadows, bitter the fruit it bore. And every man must know both good and evil. In this world abased he must needs suffer, and sweat and sorrow, who tasted that fruit that grew upon the tree. So in the original Genesis, this is the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So it imparts moral knowledge upon to the people who eat it. But then once you have moral knowledge, you start to make immoral decisions, and suffering and death follow. But they have a hope in Christ. And so the big difference between this kind of Christian worldview of light versus darkness, good versus evil, and the pagan, when the pagans had their Ragnarok where the good guys lost, and the Christians could say, oh yes, we have an apocalypse where the good guys win. Don't you like that better? But still, it's kind of preparing the way for the gospel, the proto-gospel. Let's take a look. Any questions about that before we look at Dream of the Rood? Okay, Rood is another word for rod, R-O-D, and rod signifies the cross of Christ. He was killed on a, we think of rod as something small and round, but had a wider meaning back then. I'm so happy this is here still. Okay, so these first two stories that we're looking at, the Dream of the Rood and Genesis A and B, are taking biblical stuff, one from the Old Testament, one from the New, biblical stuff, and putting it into the worldview of the pagans. This is the inverse of Beowulf, which takes a pagan story and tries to put it into the worldview of Christianity. And we'll look at that next time. Let's pull that up. It seemed I saw a most wondrous tree borne aloft, wound round, wow, say that 3 times fast, by light brightest of beams. Again, brightness associated with divinity in Anglo-Saxon culture. All that beacon sprinkled with gold, gems stood at the fair earth's corners. There likewise 5 shone on the shoulder span. So all of this is saying he's having a dream. This medieval dream visions become very important. It's a whole genre of literature. I guess it starts with Revelation. You know, John is on the island of Patmos having a dream, and he dreams all the stuff that's in the book of Revelation. So he sets up kind of a genre that will be popular for the rest of the Middle Ages. I guess people still do it. C.S. Lewis did it. But I think it was more of a harken back to these older things. So one of the things famous in the Middle Ages was the seeking for the Holy Grail, which was the cup Jesus drank out of at the Last Supper. Similarly, they had a thought that in this story that the cross of Christ gets transfigured into this glorious rood, a most wondrous tree born alone, again, tree for the wood for the cross. It's is it Timony? So he starts out talking the young hero, and who is the young hero? That's Jesus. And he talks about Jesus being the leader of the disciples who are his warriors. Who else are they going to be? They're fighting evil. But this is a very simplified culture compared to the Roman world of ancient Palestine, where Jesus had zealot on his as one of his disciples. He had fishermen. He had a tax collector. Just all the various jobs of the Roman Empire of Palestine got represented in that core group of disciples. Paul was a tent maker. But they don't have that many jobs. You've got the Earl, you've got his people, you've got the servant class of the Charles. Where are the disciples going to fit? Oh, there'll be warriors like Jesus. So Jesus is on the cross fighting with sin and death, and therefore he asks the tree to do its part. It's your duty. But then as a reward, after Jesus died, the tree was translated into this divine rood. Let's see. Nice, helpful outline. Okay, any questions about Dream of the Rood? If you have a question, just ask. Unmute yourself.
I have one question about it.
Go ahead.
When I was reading through it, I was kind of thinking the main purpose of this story is basically to describe Jesus, is to describe Christ dying on the cross as more of a battle.
Yes, because that's what these warriors understand. Dying in battle is an honorable way to go, and he's fighting the forces of evil on the cross. That's not totally foreign to traditional Christian understanding of what Jesus was doing on the cross. But it makes, they're putting it in a way that makes sense to the Anglo-Saxons.
Okay. Oh, you're kind of echoing, by the way.
What's that?
You're echoing.
Maybe if you put your thing back on mute after you talk, let's see if that helps.
I think it's mine. But what I was confused about in that story was the description of the golden tree.
What about it?
Like, I didn't understand how it fit in at the beginning.
There's a way. You might want to put it back on mute. There we go. There's a way of like in Dante. Or was it Tennyson? Anyway, he's talking about Ulysses sailing out, and he's sailing in a bark. Well, what has a bark? Tree. What do you make a boat out of? You make a boat out of wood. Now, it's not literal bark. It's just a poetic figure of speech. And so the tree is the cross, which is also the rod. The same, cross, rod, tree, they're all referring to the cross of Christ. But because the cross was made out of a tree, then I see this glorious tree. Does that make sense?
Yes, I was just confused by the description of it being gold and like the.
Oh yeah, after Jesus died, it becomes encased in gold and jewels and stuff to honor it for its role in salvation. The same way with the Holy Grail, except in Raiders, Temple of Doom, was that the one where they got the Holy Grail? In that one, it's just a plain cut, but normally it's encrusted with jewels and gold, and it's real fancy because they fancied it up afterward. At the time, it would have been very simple. Any more questions? All right, well, I wanted to introduce our group project. I'm just going to talk about it today, then I put y'all in groups and let you choose what you want to work on. Well, I'm in the wrong drive. I'm going to have to swap something for a minute. All right, hold on. I'm going to start sharing, but oh, here we go. Good. This is it. Hi there, come up on the porch. We're just sitting here watching it rain and talking about Louisiana. Could y'all hear that coming through? All right, so that's the beginning of my weekly podcast. Louisiana Anthology Project. Part of a bigger project, the Louisiana Anthology. First of all, what is an anthology? An anthology is a collection of texts centered around a topic. So if we had bought our book, our textbook for the quarter, it would have been a British anthology. And some years ago, my co-editor and I, Stephen Payne, started looking to see if there was a Louisiana anthology, similar to the British American anthology and American anthologies that are already out there. We did find one, the Louisiana book, edited by Thomas McCaleb in 1894. So it's been a while, and it was time for a new go at it. All of his stuff was English. A lot of it was not that great. We also found a French anthology of Louisiana writings. So these are the Louisiana writings that were originally in French. The Bibliothèque Tintamarre, it's a good resource, but it's all French or French Creole. See, right down here. So this is our home page. Goodness. Old homepage. The Louisiana Anthology. From the beginning, we wanted it to be adaptable to cell phones because the smartphone had already come into existence, and all the websites that have been designed before kind of sucked. So this is what our home screen looks like on your smartphone. If you decided you wanted to check out the authors, you click there. You can either browse all, or you can click on one of the letters. Let's say C, and you would get these. And Samuel Clemens, I know that name. He's also Mark Twain. Let's see what he wrote. He wrote Life on the Mississippi, which came and went from New Orleans. And also this letter to his sister. Let's check it out.
It's the beginning of Lent, and all good Catholics eat and drink freely of what they please, and, in fact, do what they please, in order that they may be the better able to keep sober and quiet during the coming fast. It has been said that a Scotchman has not seen the world until he has seen Edinburgh, and I think that I may say that an American has not seen the United States until he has seen Mardi Gras in New Orleans. Sam Clemens, March 9th, 1859.
So here we have young Sam Clemens, years before he invents the pen name Mark Twain. Not even an author yet. He's a cub riverboat pilot. And they get off the riverboat in New Orleans on a Tuesday and walk into the middle of Mardi Gras. And this is what he sees and describes. So here's Mardi Gras at the beginning. This is the third time they've had the Mystic Crew of Commerce parade. And this Mardi Gras parade, does it look like a Mardi Gras parade today? Kind of. I mean, they have oxen pulling the floats instead of trucks, but otherwise very familiar look. And so here we have Sam Clemens at the beginning of his career describing Mardi Gras at its beginning. So it's a great resource, and it's one of two places on the internet that have it, us and the Sam Clemens Project in California, I think. So let's check out this reading on a cell phone. All right, so looks great, right? Now let's check out the other place that has it, the Mark Twain Project. Ooh, sad cornet. And what's wrong with this website? Why is it getting the sad cornet compared to the one at my site?
Is it because other people are free to edit it?
No. Can you read it?
No.
That's the problem, right? It was designed in the mid-90s for big computers, or 14-inch, if you call that big anymore. Not designed for a smartphone, and there's no way to really fix it unless you totally redesign it from scratch. Now, if you're doing a paper, you'll want to go there because it's got a bunch of footnotes, like you noted. Ours less so. Ours is more for a popular audience. Wow, this is where we were in 2015. We had 500 visits, 588 visits that month. Even at the time, we were getting around the world. Louisiana typically gets the most visits, but Texas sometimes beats us out now, which is just wrong. Here's now at the time, there were a lot more visitors in Ruston than anywhere else because I make my students go there. But now we have a lot of visitors from other places, so Ruston winds up being comparatively smaller. All right, we have a Facebook page. We had a Google Plus page before it was killed by Google. We've got a podcast that comes out once a week. It's on iTunes, Stitcher. That's it as far as the introduction to the project. Now, what's your role in this? So all of these pages have been worked on by groups. All of the, like Sam Clemens, that page, a group got that ready and we put it on the internet. Let's see. I think for this class, the step of getting you in groups is easier if I just do it. And I put a forum up on Moodle. And then go on there and share your contact information with each other so that you can, get a hold of each other. Especially in COVID times, we want to do as much of this online as possible. And this is actually a pretty easy project to do online. You can just get on Zoom, share a screen. I actually find it easier to work on this with Zoom than I do face-to-face. So I will put y'all into groups. Y'all decide which thing you want to work on. And let's go over the available items. So let me walk you through the first. Click on group project. Then once I have you a group, look at these available items. These we had, oh crap. The ones with 2 zeros, we were trying to get these posted in time for New Orleans' 300th birthday. A lot of stuff we got posted. These we have not posted yet, but they're partly done. So you can see it already looks like my website. A lot of the editing has been done, and they should have left us a note, but they didn't on what to do. Bad. Here we go. So here's the notes to your group if you chose to do this. Same thing is true for the 01s, except we weren't in such a hurry to get them. But anytime a group has already worked on something, then it moves from down at the bottom to a 01, so you'll know this has been partly done. So you aren't starting over from scratch. The notes to the next group. Some of our stuff is in Spanish. If you know Spanish, this would be good. Some of it is in French. Little of it's in German, but that's some scary stuff. The Marc de la Salle play. So if you're in a group and one or some of you is pretty good with Spanish or French, you could choose one of these. I would give a group that undertakes Spanish or French, and does okay. Don't do this if you don't know it. But if you do know it, these are good ones to take. This one is in French Creole, so it's a little different from regular French. It's a language that was developed here. Okay, so those have all been worked on by somebody. A lot of cookbooks. Cookbooks are always popular. And these are books that have not been worked on yet. So we'll have to, first of all, put them into our format and then start editing them. And all you really do, it's a proofreading kind of thing. You go to where they stopped. Editing usually means finding stuff that got misspelled when it was brought over. Now, if it's a variant spelling that's in the original PDF, just leave it. But if it is a mistake that crept in, then you correct that. Punctuation marks, maybe put in italics, that kind of stuff. You aren't writing a paper about this. You're just editing and getting ready so that someday we'll be able to put it on the website with the other stuff that's already been finished. All right, any questions? So you pick out your top 3 choices and put them in your forum. Top 3, because if somebody else chooses something first before I get to you, I may have to move down the list. So top 3 choices, your email addresses and other contact information you want each other to have. That's about it for now. We'll talk about more later. There's a lot more to do, but don't worry about that yet. Just worry about getting in touch with your group and picking out your choice. All right, now questions. Just unmute yourself.
Will you be putting us in groups today?
When I get to it, maybe today, maybe the next couple of days. I've suddenly gotten overwhelmed with stuff. Everything's online, so everything has to be done. I've been writing quizzes for this week, which I may be through with. So I may be able to do groups tonight.
Yeah, and as always, we can access all the options from the syllabus, right?
Right. So go from, one more time, go from the syllabus, click on group project, and click on available items. Anything else?
So we pick the topics like as a group?
Right.
Okay.
Right, so try between, I guess, when are we doing, when do we have the empty day? It's coming up. All right, so this day, we'll go ahead and spend that whole day working on getting our groups up and going. But to do that, I need to have your choices so I can get that stuff set up on my end for you. And then I'll walk you through accessing it and stuff. Also, be sure you leave me your email address in your post on your forum that you want to use Dropbox for. We'll be using the free version of Dropbox to collaborate. I just need your email for that.
Wait, so we post our email on Moodle in the forum?
Yes.
Okay.
And that'll be for the other people in your group to contact you, and also so I'll know who, because some people want to use their check email, but other people have other emails that they prefer. Just give me your preferred Dropbox email.
Okay.
All right, is that it? Now, there's supposed to be some way to break us up into groups. Are any of you familiar with that?
You should have an option that says something like breakout rooms on your end.
Oh, yes, I see it. So I would put you in there manually. breakout room run. Now, if I do that between now and then, can I do that between now and then? Or is it something I have to do at the time?
I think you can do it whenever you want. I'm not familiar with it though.
Oh, well, we'll see. That may be what we spend the day doing. Oh, let's try one now.
Yeah, you can do it whenever you want. We do it in French class all the time.
And can your French teacher do it ahead of class, or do people actually have to be logged in?
They have to be logged in.
Like people will be here, and then you can set it to like how many people will be randomly placed into like so many rooms or whatever.
Okay, so if I want Bourgeois, Griffin, and Alexander in a room, I can just set that up.
That I don't know. I don't know if you can specify, but I do know it like you can set to like randomization and how many rooms there are and stuff like that.
Yeah, I just did one. How do we do more? Oh, I think I have to set up how many rooms we have ahead of time. Okay, I'll try to figure this out before next time. Thank you, guys. That's the great thing about tech. We can always get some technical support. Somebody knows how to do it. All right, before I log out, anybody got anything? All right, I'll see you guys Thursday. Gosh.
Okay. Bye.
See ya. All right, see you guys.